In the early and mid 1950s, journalist Victor Riesel was a hot property. His weekly column was syndicated nationwide in almost 200 newspapers. His radio program, done in a news opinion format, was equally popular. On April 5, 1956, Riesel, a difficult and somewhat obnoxious man, did an entire program on the mafia control over Local 138 of the International Union of Operating Engineers on Long Island. He mentioned the head of the local, William C. DeConing Jr., and his father William C. DeConing Sr., and tossed in Jimmy Hoffa's name as well. The program was taped at midnight at Hutton's Steakhouse Restaurant at 47th Street and Lexington Avenue. When it ended, Riesel walked over to Lindy's, a legendary Broadway restaurant at 51st Street. He ate, spoke to friends, and left at about 3 a.m. When he stepped out onto the street, a young hood named Abraham Telvey, a labor goon who was working for gangster John Diaguardi, a.k.a. Johnny Dio, Genovese's crime family underboss, tossed a vial full of sulfuric acid into Riesel's face, blinding and badly disfiguring him forever. The FBI and the New York City police, using their networks of informants, learned that Abraham Telvey was the assailant and that Johnny Dio had organized the blinding. They also knew that hoodlum Gandolfo Mirante, a.k.a. Shiki, had fingered Riesel for Telvey. The order came down from Dio to his top man Joseph Carlino to Mirante. To keep himself out of jail, Mirante agreed to testify against Johnny Dio, saying Dio had overseen the attack on Riesel. A death threat made him change his mind and risk jail instead. The heat was on Abraham Telvey in a big way because the attack on Riesel had whiplashed on the mob. The entire American news media focused itself on the attack, and a number of large newspapers began extensive investigations into trade union corruption. Several news organizations and labor unions put together rewards for information on the crime that totaled about $50,000. Nor did the attack take Riesel off the air. In fact, his popularity blew up and he was granted a weekly television show to match his radio program. He had been paid roughly $1,000 for the attack, and when it looked like he would be arrested for the assault, he started badging Dio for more money. But in the end, it was simply less expensive and safer to kill the 22-year-old Telvey. On July 28th, Telvey was murdered in gangland style near 240 Center Street, the former headquarters of the New York City Police Department. Someone walked up behind and fired a single bullet, at close range, into the back of his head. On August 29, 1956, Johnny Dio was arrested for conspiracy in the Riesel attack, pleaded not guilty, and was released on $100,000 bond. Nothing came of it. Joseph Carlino, who had hired Telvey to attack Riesel, pleaded guilty and testified that Dio had ordered him to have Genovese and Gandolfo Mirante to find a hitman and identify Riesel, and that Mirante had contacted Genovese gangster Dominic Bando to assist him in finding the hitman. Mirante and Bando were then found guilty of conspiracy, claiming they did not know who had ordered the attack on Riesel. The judge in the case did 5 years in prison for the acid attack and another 5 years for contempt of court. Joseph Carlino, who had hired Telvey, was given a suspended sentence for cooperating with the prosecution.